Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, and I've got something interesting to show you today. As always, we have a shuffle deck in use, and I'll be using a second one so I can make some fair selections. We'll get back to that in a minute. Normally you wouldn't need that. The spectator, if you were here, you'd be making your own choices. But what I would need you to do is just spread the cards out so that you can see all of the values, you can see all of the faces, and you can make a very fair and free selection. To emulate that, we'll just cut into this deck and we'll come up with a card. 7 of hearts is what we came up with. So we have that actually right up here. Here is the 7 of hearts. And we'll just set that there for a moment. Now, what I need you to do is I need you to make another selection, another choice. So, but I want you to make something very different. So a different color, different value. So it's just a stark contrast to that card. And we'll do the same thing again here until we get something that works. That won't work. That will work right there. So we have the ace of clubs. And if we look around for the ace of clubs, we find it right here at the top. Ace of clubs right here. Now, this is interesting, and I'll show you why. Because what you've done is you've selected 2 different cards freely, right? You thought of a card, 7 of clubs, and then you picked it out of the face-up spread. You also picked another card, the ace of clubs, and you did this freely out of a face-up spread, right? And by doing so, you come up with a value in a suit. A value in a suit, that is the 7 of clubs. It's a composite card value, right? A composite identity that you probably weren't even thinking of at the time, but that's what you did. Now, what's really curious about this is that if I just cut into the deck, I can come up with the 7 of clubs, that exact same identity. Now, it's very important that you understand that all of the cards are different, right? You had free selection. Nobody made you pick those cards, right? You agree that I did not force anything upon you. You're not even here, right? I could not have forced you to do that. You did that on your own. You did that just on your own thinking, your own choices. What's really curious about this, actually, before we get to that, could I have you just cut half the deck, set it right there? Thank you very much. And what's really curious about this is that if you had made your decision in reverse, it would have changed everything, right? You would have had the ace of hearts. Ace of hearts. And you're thinking, well, why is that curious? Well, it's curious because you happen to cut directly to that card. That is 2 for the show. So this is the tutorial. What we have here is, it's kind of like a Gemini Twins sort of thing, but it doesn't use that particular method. It uses the method, but not the opportunity that kind of effect operates on, right? Gemini Twins is, by the way, I was doing a series on jazzing with a shuffle deck, right? We talk about jazzing with a mem deck, memorized deck of cards, so where you know every position, and you can jazz, or improvise is the better word. You improvise magic, and because you know the order of all the cards, it's very easy to do some improvisation on thought of cards, things like that. The one thing I haven't covered on that series, and I'll just mention it here, and I won't do the video, I'll just mention it because it's a simple thing, is the Gemini Twins principle is a fantastic jazzing with a shuffle deck principle, because it has all of the qualities of random kind of chosen cards, right? The principle, if you're unaware, I can't imagine that you are, is that you have a shuffle deck and you note the top and the bottom cards. So as I spread the deck, I can see 6 of spades on the bottom, and I can see the 5 of clubs at the top, right? So 5 of clubs, 6 of spades. What I'm going to do is based on the spectator shuffle and what I see at the top and the bottom, I'm going to take out the mates to those cards. So I'm looking for the 5 of spades and the 6 of clubs. And I look through their shuffle deck and I take these cards out. And now I've made these selections, and what I do, I can either leave them down, right? I'm kind of teaching this other thing. I can either leave them face down or I can turn them face up, depends on the reveal you want. What you can do is you can have them somehow find the mates to these cards that you've chosen. There's a lot of ways to do it. One of them very directly is to use a crisscross force, right? You can use a crisscross force. One thing you could do is you take the cards, if you want to kind of up the game a little bit, is do a table shuffle where you retain the bottom card on the bottom and the top card on the top, and you shuffle them together, and then you have them cut approximately halfway, and then you do the crisscross force, which we're going to talk about in a minute here. So one of my favorite things, it's just very powerful open control that spectators can't see through, you know, and and they're the ones really doing it. They're kind of self-controlling a selection, right? But what they've done is they've actually placed the top and the bottom cards together. You could say, now where you've cut after a little bit of delay, you cut to these cards, which is the 5 of clubs and the 6 of spades, and you can see that they match. Now there's other reveals. You can do reveals where they, deal down like that, and then place a card, one of the cards that you took out, face up, and then they set the cards on top, right? And then they deal down again, and then they set them on top. And what that does is it's an automatic placement procedure. You know the trick if you're familiar with the Gemini Twins. So this is like that, but it doesn't use the opportunity. Instead, you have free selections, and you're using open controls to gain access. It's sort of like the one ahead of principle. That is where something is done ahead of time or based on selections that are made ahead of time, particularly in mentalism. But what we're doing is we're just thinking one ahead in a presentation that is one behind. What I mean by that is we're not telling the spectator what we're going to be doing until after we've already controlled the outcome of what we're going to be doing, right? And this may seem like it's really obvious, but because you have to remember that the spectator doesn't know what's going to happen, because they don't know what's going to happen, it gives you a lot of opportunity to kind of get things in place, right? And I'm going to show you a couple of open controls to do just that. So here's how it works. The cards are shuffled, if you didn't figure it out already. Knowing me and knowing the kinds of controls I like to use, some of this might be obvious. There's a lot of alternative handling too. I would place this handling kind of intermediate. It's not very hard, but you do have to know a couple of fairly accessible sleights if you practice, particularly the one which is the spread call we'll look at. But you can make this very basic. You don't have to do the controls that I'm doing. You can make this very, very simple so that it would be almost beginner level and still have the same outcome. Anyway, cards are shuffled, and what you say, this is very important, you say, we're going to spread the cards out so that you can see every card. What I really mean is I'm going to spread the cards out so that I can see every card, okay? Because what you're going to need to know is where to find cards of interest as they are making free selection. So the first thing you have them do is you say, I want you to just think of any card and take it out of the spread, any card at all. I just want to make sure you can see everything so we can be very fair and open about this. So they remove a card. Let's say they go for the 4 of spades right here. Now, when they take this card out, immediately what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the 4 of hearts and the 4 of diamonds. The moment I see them touch that 4, I look for the red 4s. I see 4 of hearts up here, and as I scan down, I'm just looking for 4. Red 4, red 4. As I scan down, I see 4 of diamonds at the bottom. 4 of hearts at the top, 4 of diamonds at the bottom. I now know my 2 potential targets. I say, that's great. Now what I want you to do is to select another card, but pick a different, make it very different. Different color, different value. That means that they're going to select either a diamond or a heart. I don't care what it is, but I know it's going to be a diamond or a heart, and that's what's going to make the 4 of diamonds or the 4 of hearts my target. As soon as they touch a card, let's say they go for the 3 of diamonds, I know that I'm shooting for my 4 of diamonds, which is going to be down here. As soon as they take that card out, what I'm going to do is an open a shift, table shift, a spread table shift, and it's going to be done openly. You don't have to be covert about this. You don't have to be very clean. You don't have to make it look invisible because they can't really see what you're doing. And because they are one behind on the instructions and you're one ahead on the thinking, they can't possibly know what you're up to. They just can't know. Here's how it works. I'm going to pick up, and I actually covered this recently on another video, the presence of this sort of maneuver. I'm going to pick up at the top, and I'm going to collect the cards, reverse the spread, and as I approach my 4 of diamonds, which I now have visibly as a target, I'm looking at that, I'm going to put the nail of my thumb down on the card right in front of that, which in this case is a King of Hearts. You can't see this on the video, but I can see it well. This demonstrates that the spectator does not see what I'm up to. As I spread it, I'm going to put my thumbnail down. Actually, I'm going to move this out so you can see it. Here's my 4 of diamonds. I'm going to put my thumbnail down on the card right in front of it, and I'm going to push the 4 of diamonds off. And then I'm going to pick up the stack I have in my hand, and I'm going to set it on top of the remaining cards. Now, this maneuver can be done anywhere in the spread. Just to demonstrate that, I'm going to reverse this, and I'm going to place my 4 of diamonds closer to the top. Again, spread it out so they can see every card, really so that I can see every card. And I can see my 4 of diamonds right here near the top. I'm going to pick up and then I'm going to spread. And as I hit that card right in front of it, I'm just going to push off the 4. And then I'm going to keep spreading, placing the rest of the cards I've collected, on top of the remaining cards in the spread. What this does is it controls the 4 of diamonds to the top very openly. This does not have to be quick. It doesn't have to be covert. It doesn't have to be super clean, right, and slick. You can do it that way and do something like this very openly, and it becomes legitimately an invisible shift. Okay, but that's not really what we have to do because, again, remember, we're one ahead on the thinking and they're one behind on the procedure. They don't know what's coming. They just know that they've made these selections very freely. Okay. Now I take the cards, and as I explain the freedom of their choices, how fair this was, what I'm going to do is just do a couple of table riffle shuffles. I'm going to take the top, move it to the right, and I'm just going to shuffle the top card back on top. And then I'm going to do another shuffle where I take the top, take it to the left. And then I'm going to shuffle the top card back on top. Now this is just for people that are in the know, that are observant. It just confuses the procedure, and it helps to make this look like I'm really shuffling all the cards in, right? Because they see a discrepancy. I talked about discrepancy in a recent video. This is a discrepancy that might be noticed, that the top card changed in that procedure, even though it did not. It kind of appears that it did because I changed the sides. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, as I gather the cards after the last shuffle, as I collect and square, I'm going to place a bridge crimp. A bridge crimp is whenever I squeeze the top half of the cards up like this, and I place an upward crimp. I do this very quickly. So I close, lay in the crimp. It's that fast. And then what I can do is I can either cut the cards, cut a couple of sections, the bottom to the top, just a small packet, and then another packet. Another one I like to do is a false strip. I didn't do it on the video, but I enjoy doing this a lot, is I pick up half of the deck and I take the bottom half and I false strip, meaning that I strip the bottom cards and I keep the arrangement. Now, the arrangement doesn't matter, but what matters is that I get the bottommost card against the topmost card. The reason for that is because the bottom cards are level and flat. The top cards are crimped. I want this juxtaposition. So either cut packets, starting with the bottom and working your way up until it's about halfway, or do a false strip. And I say, what's curious about this is that you selected this 4 first and then this diamond second. And if we think about this in terms of value and suit, you come up with a completely different card, completely new identity, the 4 of diamonds, which you weren't really thinking about when you selected these cards. Now, what is curious about this is that if I just cut into the deck, and what I'm doing is I'm cutting into my crimp, which is very obvious in the back. It's very, very clear. You don't have to look at it even. You just have to reach down, and if you just kind of pick up and relax, it will break at that spot. And then I drop the top and then I pick up. Now, what I do usually when I deal with these kinds of crimps, and this is not that essential, but what I do is I'll press down on the card and I'll bend it up as I pick it up, and that actually reverses the crimp so that when I lay this down on the table, it lays flat like the other cards, right? And I say that I can cut directly to that card that you have created, right? Now, this is amazing because I just got done shuffling the cards from a spread that they shuffled already, okay? Now, it's a card control feat. I'm really doing what I'm saying that I'm doing, right? I'm controlling their card and putting it into a position that I can cut to. But because, again, they're one behind on the information, they're one behind on the procedure and I'm one ahead on the information, I'm able to kind of organize the situation. Okay, so that's the first reveal. The second one, the way I did it on the video, is a basic spread call. Again, they're one behind on the procedure and I'm one ahead on the information. I'm talking about how they had free selection on a deck that they shuffled, right? And all of the cards are different. There's no way that I influenced or forced anything, but what I'm actually doing is I'm calling out the 3 of spades, the reverse, right? So I open this up and I'm just looking for the 3 of spades, and when I hit it, I spread call it into place. And I maintain it to the top of the deck as I'm talking about how I didn't influence anything, right? They had free choice. And then I square this, and I've actually called that card to the top of the deck. I'm not going to teach the call here. I teach it elsewhere. I even have a video at Penguin that deals with the spread call called Magic Bullet. You can get that for very in-depth teaching on the spread call and a lot of uses for it and some classical effects. I close up the spread, and then I set it down. And I say what's really curious about this is that before I do that, this is another principle in magic. I call it the oops principle, right? Oops, I forgot something. And what it does is it allows kind of a break in the train of thought, and it allows you to do a maneuver out of place, right? The most well-known one is the coin trick, where I'm going to rub the coin into my elbow, which is such a bizarre kind of concept, right? I'm going to rub the coin on my elbow. And as you're rubbing, you accidentally drop the coin, right? Oh, and you say, oops, and then you pick it up with the opposite hand and you do a false transfer, and then you bring it and you set it on the back of your neck and you leave it there and you pretend to rub it in and then it vanishes, right? That is the oops principle. We'll call it that. This is kind of an oops principle because we've already controlled their card, the next selection to the top. And as I say, what's really curious about this is that, actually, before I do that, I forgot. Could I have you just cut about half the cards? And they do that, and then you set up the crisscross for us. And you say, what's really curious about this is that if you would have made the selection in reverse, right, you would have come up with the 3 of spades. What's curious about that is that that's where you cut. You cut directly to the 3 of spades. And what you reveal is that they made selections, you cut to one composite, and they cut to the last one. And it's very hard hitting because they're the one that they do the magic at the end, right? And there's not apparently been opportunity to control, right? They have not seen any opportunity to control any of the cards. Everything's been done kind of in a face-down situation as far as they know, because they've been one behind on the procedure and you've been one ahead on the information. Now, how do you make this more simple? You could do that same spread control both times. That is one possibility. So say the spread call is not something you're interested in doing. Well, you could just do the open control both times if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that because, again, you're one ahead on the information and they're one behind on the procedure. So that looks sort of like this. They make a selection. Let's say they say the 4 of clubs. which means I'm scanning for 4 of hearts and 4 of diamonds, right, as I look through. So I see 4 of diamonds here. And again, you want to make sure that you start with the premise that they see everything so you can see everything. I see 4 of diamonds here, 4 of hearts right there. And then I say pick another card, different color, different value. Let's say they go for the the King of Diamonds, right? Which means I'm going for the 4 of diamonds right here. I'm going to do my control where I pick up and spread, and then I push off and pick up. Again, it doesn't have to be fluid and quick because they're behind on the information here or on the procedure. They don't know what's going to happen, and you're one ahead. So I've got 4 of diamonds now controlled to the top, and I do my normal thing. One thing to make this really easy for you so you don't have to do the crimp is to do that same kind of shuffle control. Or if you want to, don't do any shuffling at all. Just leave it because you've already controlled at the top. Pick it up, set them there, and then just do the crisscross force on yourself, right? So let me just cut the deck here and say, now what's curious about this is that you chose the 4 of clubs first, the 4 first and then the diamond second, right? Which makes a whole new card. That is a value in a suit, 4 of diamonds. What's curious about this is that that's exactly where I've cut to, right? And I just want to remind you that you had free choice, right? You could have selected anything, and there's no duplicates in here. Now, as I'm doing this, what I'm looking for is now the King of Clubs, right? So as I'm going down through here, I'm scouting out King of Clubs, and I see it at the bottom, right? So what I do is, as I pick this up, I say, now what's really curious about this is that you could have picked this in reverse, and what I've done is I very openly controlled the King of Clubs to the top. You could have done this in actually, before I do that, could you cut the cards real quick? Just cut approximately half. They cut half, and then you set up. So you could have done this in reverse, which would have given you a different value in a different suit. It would have been the King of Clubs. Why is this curious? Well, it's because you have cut to that card, right? So this is a way to put everything on the spread shift and the crisscross force, right? You can do that or any other combination of controls. But again, you're one ahead on the information. They're one behind on the procedure. It gives you a lot of latitude to do that kind of Gemini Twins sort of situation where they're making free selections. You don't have to use complete opportunity. And you can take your time. There's a world of time there for you to scout what you need and to gain control of it. So that is 2 for the show. 2 for the show. We'll call it that. People like to have names on card tricks. So there you go. 2 for the show. Good luck with that. Happy magicking.